Chapter 1. Ashes and Fire. Darkness heavy and relentless, pressed down until a single fractured whisper cut through it. Draco Renatus. Azural's eyes flickered open and pain flooded her senses. A fire coiling under her skin, consuming her bones from within. She lay sprawled in a blackened crater, the earth cracked and still smouldering from some cataclysmic force. Each breath clawed at her throat, filling her lungs with ash and smoke, burning with the sharp tang of charred earth. Her limbs were sluggish, like they belonged to someone else entirely. Trembling, she managed to push herself up, fingers digging into the scorched ground. Brief flashes of something, scales perhaps, glinted under the soot coating her skin only to vanish. Her body was a stranger, a mystery locked in pain and disorientation. She lifted her head and scanned the desolate landscape. Shadows stretched from twisted trees surrounding the crater, their blackened limbs reaching skyward like skeletal hands. On the horizon, the faint glow of distant fires bruised the dark sky. Heat waves shimmered over the cracked ground, warping her vision, pressing against her as though the entire world held its breath, waiting. A sharp ache throbbed at the base of her skull, and with it, scattered images flashed across her mind. Distorted fragments, like the pieces of a dream shattered upon waking. A face lingered, cruel and dark, the eyes filled with a malice that left her with an ache deeper than the physical pain in her bones. She knew that face. The memory pulsed just out of reach, each attempt to summon it stirring only a fierce frustration and a hollow rage. Something primitive, raw, stirred inside her, sharp as a knife. Rage coiled through her veins, a rush of heat and hunger that she couldn't explain. She could taste it, metallic on her tongue, as her hands began to burn, not with fire from without but from within, from a place buried deep in her blood. And then it burst. She screamed, the sound tearing from her throat as blue fire erupted from her fingers, scorching the earth, sending sand and rock flying. The fire roared around her, wild and uncontrollable, a fierce extension of her anger and confusion. She felt the heat crawl up her arms, along her spine, blazing through her, as if her own blood had ignited. When the flames died, exhaustion closed in like a vice. Her knees buckled, her strength draining as swiftly as the fire had flared. She braced herself on the ground, heart pounding, her limbs shaking as she looked upon the devastation her fire had left. A path of scorched earth carved into the crater. The power had come from somewhere deep, a place she couldn't name but knew instinctively. Yet even as she recognized it, a part of her feared it. Her body slumped against the ground, her breaths shallow and ragged, but the silence brought no peace. Memories stirred once more, their edges jagged and incoherent. A scene flickered in her mind, firelight flickering over a dark figure towering over her, his face a blend of shadow and fury, and one word spat like a curse: Vieuva. The name lingered, cold and invasive, an echo of something she couldn't yet piece together. Whoever he was, he had left her with nothing but pain and ash, and a fury so potent it burned as hot as her flames. A low growl escaped her throat as she pushed herself up again, defying the weakness that gnawed at her. She staggered to the edge of the crater and clutched a jagged rock for support. The world beyond stretched before her, barren and desolate. Distant mountains loomed like spectres, shadows dark against the dimming light, promising nothing but danger. Her gaze hardened and she muttered, "Whoever did this, I will find you." It was a vow, whispered into the suffocating silence of her rebirth. She didn't know what she was, or why she'd been thrown into this wasteland, but the name Vieuva burned in her mind, a spark of purpose amidst the confusion. With pain simmering in her muscles and anger pulsing in her chest, Azural stepped out of the crater, away from the ruins of her former self, and into the waiting unknown. She would survive. She would find answers, and she would wield her fire to face whatever lay ahead.